Well, good morning. It is a fine Saturday morning, and I'm here at home. This is Coffee with Rich. We're just going to wait for a couple of people to get on, and we will get moving. There we go. Now I can see everything. We're just waiting for Brian, and then we're getting ready to go. Hope you guys have your coffee. Yes.
Hello, people.
Let's go to YouTube and look at this event. Hey, there we go. There's a state of panic and 3D printing trucker. Ken Starock, good morning. Coffee does come first. Robert Brooks, good morning, sir. It's very disorientating to hear myself back like 5 seconds later. I've sent Brian his invite. Hopefully he got it. So today we're going to talk about some bed leveling stuff. Red Bull for me, Robert Brooks. I like Red Bull too. I actually like NOS better than Red Bull. My volume could be a little high. There it is. That's better. So today we're talking about these guys. Let me just switch cameras here. So we're going to be talking about this stuff. And we're going to talk a little bit about this. And we got a couple things we're going to go into. So let's get this stuff moved. Get that out. Get this all out. Put this together. Goes together like that. Talk about that. We have two different sensors. So State of Panic says, I'm still having a hard time leveling my bed on the CR10S. So we are going to talk a little bit about that, and I'll address that after we get through the topic. A little bit of a spider web floating by there. Oh, okay. Brian says he's going to join shortly because he's got PC issues. So let's just run that intro. Okay, good morning. I'm glad to see we've got some people here on the live stream. We have our round table person showing up pretty soon. What else we got going on? Okay, we're going to be talking about inductive and capacitive sensors. Let me just get this PC up and running. Bring in an NDI source. What are capacitive and inductive sensors? Oh, good, you're naked. I'm not naked. Brian, are you joining me in the Hangout? I hope so. I did send you a message on Facebook to link in. Okay, so he is going to join us. I'm not naked. Oh, my face. Yes. For anybody that didn't watch the episode on Thursday, which was the 1st of November, it is, of course, Movember. So traditionally, every year I shave off my mustache and let it grow back through the month of November. It just kind of shows my support for men's health, even though I can't financially contribute. Yeah. So that's what Movember is all about. Keith Camps, where's your mustache? I just explained that. Coffee. So we've got 3 types of sensors on the table. Very strange. There we go. That sounds better. Brian's just working on his PC. But yeah, we're going to cover these sensors. I'm going to talk a little bit about the PETS Fang today. There are a couple of questions I need to answer about what we talked about with the MOSFET on Thursday. So we'll get all to that today. And I expect this is probably going to be about 2 hours again. Now, for those people that are watching, if you'd like to join in on our conversation this morning, I'm going to put a link for our Hangout right here. And now you can see there's a link for the Hangout. You guys can join in if you like. I'm just going to get this one up and running. All right. Okay, there we go. So if you'd like to join us this morning in the on the panel, the link I just put there for the Hangout. So you guys, if you've got Google Plus, you can join us. I don't think you even need Google Plus. All you need is a microphone and a camera to join us. And we will get on to it. Okay, so we're talking about bed leveling sensors. Let's just change cameras here and we'll have a quick peek. Okay, so we have a couple of different sensors here on the table. The first is the Creality one. This is the one that's sold by Creality. This is a capacitive sensor. This is an inductive sensor. The difference between the two sensors is, I guess I don't need my headphones on until somebody comes on. So the difference between these two is a capacitive sensor uses an electric field to sense the level or the bed that you're leveling to, while an inductive sensor has a magnetic field which senses metal. So with these inductive sensors, you cannot use glass on your bed because the sensor is not powerful enough to go through the thickness of the glass and detect the metal understructure. While a capacitive sensor, on the other hand, can have any material on the bed and it's going to just sense the material that it's coming in contact with. So these are far better in terms of the material that you're using as a substrate, whether it be glass, PEI, or any of the other types of coatings that are available for your bed. Now, why would you put on a bed leveling sensor and why would we use these? Well, if you wanted to set up auto bed leveling on your machine, these would be the 2 different types of sensors that you would use. If you just have build tack on your raw heated bed, the inductive sensor, or pardon me, yes, the inductive sensor would be the way to go because it can sense through build tack. I've tried it and it does work very, very well. Whereas the Creality sensor, this is the same type of sensor that TH3D sells with their Easy ABL. My understanding is Creality basically just copied the Easy ABL. For the most part, they've got a little box here that attaches to your 3D printer or can be put anywhere on your 3D printer. And then they've got the sensor. And this one uses external power so that you can just plug this directly into the wall. You don't have to open up the box at all, but you do need to upgrade the firmware. And you'll have to do that with any type of sensor so that you get auto bed leveling. It also comes with the brackets. So I am going to be installing these over the weekend onto my Creality CR10s because I want to test them and play with them. Now, my favorite kind of sensor is this guy right here by Ant Labs or Ant Clabs. Yeah, okay. BL Touch. That's the sensor that I really like using. I've used it before. It comes in a nice, neat little package. But what you do need to do, because these leads aren't long enough, is you have to get a set of extension leads. Now, you don't have to buy them from the BL Touch people. You can buy them from most retailers. You can also use RC car servo extension cables. They work very well as well. Let's take a look at some of these questions really quickly. So we've got no questions. Nice. We got Jake from State Farm here, Johnny Gardner, Keith Camps, Kevin Toole, Brian Baker, A State of Panic. Yes, I will put all the types in the description after the event is over today. But why I like these guys, and I'm just going to open this one up because this is going to go on my machine as well. I'm going to test the two different ones. I've officially broken the seal. Now, what you get in this package is you get some additional pieces to add clips to, so you can make your own cables if you want to. You get a couple of little springs. Now, I've asked, what are those springs for? They're just decoration. According to the manufacturer of the BL Touch, they are just decoration. That's all they are. To make this look like a happy face. See, there's 2 eyes, there's the nose, there's the eyebrows, and there's the mouth. Big smile. Now, let's just get so you get all the hardware that you need, and you get the BL Touch. Now, the BL Touch works very much like a servo. Let me turn it the right way. So you've got this little pin here, and this pin will come down. Once it hits the table and it hits a certain threshold, it'll zip back up and register where it is touching on the bed. These are very well manufactured. They use this little cable. And then, of course, you can see you don't have much cable there. So they're really designed to install. You use 2 screws to install them. Up on the top, you have a sensitivity adjustment screw that you can use. I've used these in the past. I really like them. I think they are far more accurate than these types of sensors, in all honesty. Now, I downloaded the Pets Fang and printed one out last week. This is all printed in ABS. But the Pets Fang has an interesting little setup. So when you take off the shroud that's over top of your hot end on the CR10, you replace it with this, and then you put your heatsink fan right here. So you see this little slot right here. Well, this slot is available to put in a mount for the BL Touch. So then the BL Touch just mounts there, and you can adjust it up or down as you need to. So that's kind of interesting. Let's have a look here. Have you done a vid on bootloader? Fred, I have not yet, but I will be getting to that. Unless you have a large build surface, Ed Assure is saying, or build plate for 300 by 300 plate thick mirror glass and 4-corner leveling is more than sufficient. I agree with you. 100% I agree with you on that one. There's Red Tan. Hello, sir. Wouldn't the BL Touch be the best all-around sensor because it actually touches the surface regardless of what type of surface it is? Keith is asking. And yes, it is. Let me just switch cameras here again. It's weird doing all this stuff at home because I have somebody in the studio to do it for me usually. Let's see, who do we have here in our...
It's me.
Oh, it's Brian.
Yes, good morning. Bear in mind my camera's a little bit messed up for the next few minutes, so I'm going to try and sort that out.
Well, we got Brian in the chat, so now we can, or in the stream, so now we can talk a little bit more about it. All right, so let's get back to some of these questions. Depending on some of the issues, can the gantry, with the gantry, so you'll still need more points? Yes, I usually typically do 9 points of bed leveling with something as large as the CR10. I would probably go to, what is it, 24 is the next one? Because it does 9. Then
16.
16, yes. 16. So then it would be 16 points. Anders, you could be lead times on 2020 can be horrible sometimes. And if the sensors solve it, I'm not sure what you're saying there. Do you see that comment there, Brian?
Yeah, I'm just looking back here. Looks like he's just saying sometimes the issue can be with the gantry alignment probably. So basically ordering 2020 for stability is the ideal long-term solution. And the sensors are indeed quite cheap. As you see with my CR10 with that frame, that cost me about $150 in fasteners and aluminum in the end. So
yeah, that's now, has that improved your print quality by putting all of that on there?
yeah, seemingly so. I mean, it transfers all the vibrations to the table, so it's kind of noisy, but
And now,
it's stable.
what type of bed leveling sensor are you using?
I'm using the official Creality one.
Okay.
Because as much as I want to try TH3D's one, the Creality one's half the price. So
right.
Yeah. But I am learning new things about that sensor every week because every video I've seen has that sensor much closer to the bed than where I have mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Even Creality, they released a video just the other week there, and I think they showed it like almost microns above the glass bed. So
yeah.
But when I tried that, because the calibration of the Creality is not the sharpest in the world, it would always drive into the bed.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. Yeah, we're going to install the Creality one on one of the CR10s we have here at home. And then we're going to put the BL Touch on the other one. And we're going to see which one is easier to set up, which one is... They're both about the same price in terms of cost. So we're going to see which one works better for us. So
cool.
Our editor is saying that Marlin has MASH. I think he means mesh leveling utility. It takes just a minute to do. So why extra gadgets onto a gantry? Mesh bed leveling only works if you have a sensor. It does not work with just a single end stop.
Actually, you can do manual mesh leveling, but only to the 4 points on the outside.
Yes, manual, not automatic.
No.
So yeah, by having a sensor, you get a much more accurate reading of the bed than you would if you were just using that end stop. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I would agree.
So Brian just got back from Ontario. How does it feel to be back home?
It's nice to be back in civilization, man. I wasn't even close enough to go visit Ron, so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was way out there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was just, getting to stare at my 3D printer doing nothing for 3 weeks, so that was kind of fun.
Yeah, editor, you can manually level the bed, of course. One other thing I've been experimenting with this week, Brian, and you're going to find this rather interesting, is AstroPrint.
Yeah, and actually, if I could have found, this 2 hours ago, you bet I would have actually installed AstroPrint on my Pi. Because I was like, oh
Um,
man, I'm tired of finding this adapter to print from the SD card. I'll just go and flash my Pi with AstroPrint. Wait, I need that SD card to flash AstroPrint. That
well,
that
I've
was my
got
morning.
two setups going. I have AstroPrint set up here at home on one of the CR10s at the moment. And then I've got the AstroPrint Touch set up at
Ooh,
the studio.
nice.
So the AstroPrint Touch is actually quite neat. Actually, AstroPrint by itself, and I'm going to do a whole tutorial on how to get AstroPrint up and running and why it's different than Octoprint. Now, you can in Octoprint add a AstroPrint file to it or plugin so that you can technically you would have an Octo AstroPrint.
Yeah, I ran that for a while actually, and it did the job. But then I was just like, this just seems like extra effort.
Johnny's asking, what is AstroPrint? AstroPrint is an online utility that allows you to control your 3D printer from anywhere in the world as long as you have an internet connection. So you can start, you can stop, you can slice models on the web in the cloud, you can store models in the cloud. Um, it's I'm finding it to be a very easy utility to set up.
Hmm.
It's quite simple on the start because if you have just Raspberry Pi, I've got one here that's got a 7-inch touchscreen on it. If you have a touchscreen, the AstroPrint Touch is definitely the way to go because then you can just do everything on that 7-inch touchscreen. You no longer have to have an SD card in your 3D printer. You hook this up, and I know I've said before that I'm not a big fan of Octoprint because of the way that it manages memory.
So
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, AstroPrint Touch, is that built into the Raspberry Pi distro by default?
When you get the AstroPrint Touch ISO, yes.
Okay, cool. Because I've got my 7-inch one, same as you official here, but I also have this brand new little LCD that's a 3.5-inch touchscreen that mounts right atop the Pi, just like their Astro Box Touch. So,
Yeah, that's exactly how I built the one at the studio.
oh, wicked.
So mine looks identical to that for all intent and purposes. The only difference between mine and that one is I can actually bring a external camera out from the back like a Pi cam, like this guy.
Nice.
And if you're looking for longer ribbon cable for your Raspberry Pi camera, on eBay, or not on eBay, but on Amazon, you can get these cables for like $10.
Oh yeah, they're super cheap.
Yeah. And that's like a meter long, that one. So it'll do well.
Yeah, I am going to download AstroPrint now and have it on hand because I was literally talking about doing it this morning, but
Yeah, it's Astro Touch. I've been playing with it. I'm going to do a whole tutorial on it, and then we'll do a AstroPrint versus Octoprint setup as well. So let's have
perfect.
a look at some of the comments here. Upgraded the firmware and enabled mesh bed leveling on my Ender 3, and it works a treat, but you still have to run it every couple of prints. I do have to say my prints are coming out better. Very good, Keith. I'm glad to hear that.
I won't lie, I'm a bad person. I run a G29 on every single print job.
Yeah, once I put these sensors on, I will be adding G29 to my G code, my start G code, so that it does the bed leveling every time.
And we'll talk about this, but if you are having issues with your bed leveling with your ABL sensor, the first thing is if you flash Marlin, look and see if you've added the line run or reload G28 or G29 after G28. It's something of that verbiage in there, because if you do a homing routine on Marlin by default, it doesn't reload your mesh bed leveling data from before. So you're just printing with a flat surface.
That's a good note. Yeah.
Yeah, because it
How's
caught
the
me a few times.
performance? Anders saying is how's the performance? Pure Octoprint induces too much slowdowns in the printing compared to printing from SD card. Is AstroPrint quicker? I have found AstroPrint to be quicker. One of the things that I am using on AstroPrint is I tried using their online slicer. So basically what you do, and like I said, I'm going to get into much more detail about this, but what you do is you go to, you have apps. You can go to My Mini Factory, or you can go to Thingiverse, download a model directly from My Mini Factory or from Thingiverse into the cloud, allow the cloud to slice it through AstroPrint, and then send it directly to your printer. So there's no mucking around. It is much faster. I found the slicer to be faster because you don't have to do anything. You just basically tell it what machine you're using and away you go.
So Keith Camps there, the code just posted the G28 and then the M420S1. You can get rid of the M420S1 just by changing this one setting in Marlin. Just a heads up. But yeah, that setting is otherwise buried. So either M420S1 after a G28 or change your code.
Johnny Gardner is saying, I have the Ender 3. Is it better to use Marlin? The Ender 3 already uses Marlin. It just doesn't use the current version of Marlin.
It's a bit dated. What's it? 1.1.0, I think they're still using. Yeah, Creality uses 1.1.0 as a baseline, which is about a year behind now. And we got someone else in here. Oh, that's your there we go.
I don't know if she can hear us or not. Oh,
no,
she just can't talk.
I'm guessing she just put on that photo just to mock us.
Yeah, I think she did too. Yep, we're fired.
Hey, Raymond Emsley, how's it going?
Hey, Raymond, he was in the shop yesterday. We were talking for a while. So just to kind of give you guys a look, I'm just going to set it up really quickly here so you guys can see what AstroPrint can do.
You do that. I'm going to go grab my Pi and start this flashing process.
Okay, well, you guys just talk amongst yourselves for a second here. I'm going to go to my AstroPrint. Log in. Now, AstroPrint's really cool, you guys. You're going to love this. I'm using my laptop over here. Let me just go to my account. Sign that guy in. Let's go and monitor the CR10. There we go. Here we go. And now, just have to go down to NDI here. And
while he works away, I have just grabbed my miniature Pi here with the LCD that still hasn't even had the cover taken off yet. But you can get these kits online for next to nothing. It just bridges to the HDMI and it's full touchscreen. So I think I paid $30 for it.
I was sure I had an NDI on here. I guess I don't.
Are you just using your camera in Google or are you using like OBS? Are you using vMix,
I'm
right?
actually using, I'm not using OBS today. I'm using our regular software.
Oh, okay.
Any new news on Marlin like 1.9? There is no news yet, but there will be news coming out. I believe in another week or two, they're dropping more information on it. And we're supposed to be seeing a brand new version of Simplify 3D in the next couple of weeks, from what my understanding is.
That project's trademark is coming soon with a little trademark in the top.
Yeah.
If you follow the Facebook group about Simplify 3D, it changes day by day. Everyone says 2 days, 2 days, and there's not a lot of info coming out of them. But let's just say I've put scriptlets in place to know within a few hours if they actually drop it. So you'll be. I hope you guys will be the first to know.
Well, as soon as we get it, we're gonna let everybody know how to take advantage of it.
Yeah, we're gonna break it first day, guaranteed.
Yeah. That's usually what we do, though.
This is how it goes. Brian, don't touch that feature. Ooh, tree supports. 6 hours later. God.
Now, please, everybody, don't get confused that there's going to be tree supports there because we don't know yet.
No, but I mean,
don't jump the gun, Brian.
No.
Brian's jumping the shark.
Well, let's put it this way: if that feature's not on there, I'm certainly gonna slowly migrate back to Cura. They got too much cool stuff coming out in Cura now.
There is a lot of cool stuff coming out in Cura.
Have you tried that support edition feature yet?
Not yet, but I was able to successfully print while you were away a 120 or a 28 millimeter D&D style figure.
Nice.
That worked great. It looked amazing. I used a tutorial that I found online from the guys who actually do Dungeon Lock.
Oh, okay.
They actually created not only the Dungeon Lock, they create the Dungeon Lock system, but they've also uploaded profiles to their Facebook page where you can download and print miniatures using their profile. You are slowing your machine down to 20 or 0.25 millimeters per second. So it's quite a drop, and you're printing at 0.06.
Jeez.
But so the mini that I did with a sword, the little guy's got a sword or whatever. He took 2.5 hours to print.
That's still not bad.
No, but I should have had it here at home. It's at the shop, but it's incredible the amount of detail that's on it.
What do we got going on here? Anyone have step-by-step to install BL Touch and level before every print? Well, Johnny, I guess it depends on which printer you have.
Yes.
Because the BL Touch is used on many different printers. I haven't gone looking for it, but the BL Touch is a little bit different. I know looking in the Marlin code, there's some stuff about deploying the sensor and whatnot, and I just haven't had time to read into it.
Now, one of the things that I heard this week, and this came from an employee from Wanhao USA, is that BL Touch was purchased by Wanhao.
And they're going to maintain that brand name, correct?
As far as I know, yes.
Yeah, because I mean, BL Touch has become a household name at this point.
Yes. Now, the other thing that you guys, for anybody that's got Wanhao now, especially the D9, there is a Mark II version coming out of the D9 in both 300, 400, and 500. They are a little different. They no longer use the or inductive sensor that they've got on there now. They are moving to a BL Touch on all their machines. There's a couple of other changes that are being made to it as well.
What do you think about Creality putting a capacitive sensor on that CR10S Pro and the CR20 Pro?
I think that's probably a decent idea. It all depends how they implement it. Like the Ender 3 Pro, that would have been a natural upgrade that they should have done for that machine. If they wanted to truly make it a pro machine, they should have put on an auto bed leveling sensor. Again, the bed's very small. I mean, it's only 220 by 220 print area. But at the end of the day, I think that, the best sensor for any 3D printer is probably the BL Touch. It's the easiest to install.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, there's Wiley. It is going great today. And then we've got RT, which I believe is Richard Taylor. Does the Ender 3 Pro need auto leveling? It doesn't need auto leveling. It does level pretty well if you use the system that I use, and I go diagonally, corner to corner. I find that's the most efficient way to level your bed if you're doing a manual bed level.
Now, one thing we're not taking into account here, though, is factory defects in the bed, because the ABL will take care of that. So if you have like an Ender 3 and, you've seen Richard and I, we all run mirror glass and everything, which has a very, very smooth, consistent top surface. But if you are working with pretty much any material that has any play in it, I'm going to say, different kind of flex beds and stuff like that, then it might be worthwhile for you to consider an ABL if you are noticing it's imbalanced.
Right.
Again, I'm a little bit biased. I love the ABL. Bear in mind, I allowed it to cover up a lot of issues recently. Like when I actually had my bed angled so badly that you could see the offset with a level on the bed compared to the actual frame. And the sensor covered it up fairly well for a while, but I was getting some little print issues I just couldn't resolve any other way. And it wasn't bed adhesion. So the sensor did a great job of covering it up, but it didn't actually solve the problem. So at the end of the day, even with bed leveling, you really should go into a proper manual level. So just so you see what I'm playing with here, I am loading loading the AstroPrint first boot right there. It's so adorable, this tiny screen. I can't wait to see if the UI launches up automatically. If I can do this without actually hooking up a keyboard.
Did you just download AstroPrint or AstroPrint Touch?
That's a good question. I do not know. Let me look back and see what I downloaded. That would just be the stock AstroPi Raspberry Pi image.
Yeah, you're not going to have the touchscreen capability.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, you need the AstroPrint Touch. Now this is a really dark image. Let me see if I can bring this in. You guys are gonna laugh at this.
And Keith Camps, yeah, before I got the ABL, I put in the mesh bed leveling by hand, and man, did I love doing that. Mark, in regards to killing a bad print, I have killed prints before with the AstroPrint app from Android. Even if you started the print job without it, you can still issue the emergency stop code or anything as long as the network's up. State of Panic, this is a 3B plus. It's got that new heat shroud and the Wi-Fi AC and all that good stuff. So yeah, I'm stuck at a tiny TTL login right now. So yeah, I'm gonna have to get that proper touch.
Yeah, you're gonna have to.
Yeah.
So if you guys look now, you can see this is quite dark. Over here, down in the left corner, you can see there's some little blinky lights that look like it's a little Star Trek panel. That's the AstroPrint Touch interface. Over on the right-hand side, of course, is the screen for the Ender 3. Now, there's no lights on in my office, so we're not going to see much here. So let me just turn that one back, and we'll go into the AstroPrint box I have set up here at home. Now, the one that I have had at home is not a touch. So here you can see, let me just bring that full screen for you. Here you can see the camera. This is a Raspberry Pi camera. I've done my best to focus it. I can certainly move a whole bunch of stuff around right here from my desktop if I needed to. So again, as long as you've got an internet connection, you can do this.
Huh. So I'm just looking into it. Do you know the Astro Box Touch software is purchase only now?
Yes.
Yeah, $39 US.
Yes.
Oh, that's tempting. I really hate buying software for the Raspberry Pi, though. It seems kind of counterproductive.
This one is not, if you're going to use it as a touch. This, by using their touch interface, I found that you do not need to really do a whole lot with it. Once you've installed it, tell it that you've got a camera, and Bob's your uncle.
Cool. Well,
and you can plug in. The nice thing about this is if you don't have a Raspberry Pi camera, you can actually use a standard webcam.
that's awesome. That's because the Raspberry Pi camera, as much as I love it, it's really a nuisance to install.
It is. I agree.
And I bear in mind I run a Raspberry Pi camera outdoors, and I'd show you a current photo, but ironically, as soon as I leave town, something happened with my power grid, and I think my power supply on my NAS blew, so I got to go replace that today.
Oh.
Yeah, it boots up for like 20, 25 minutes and just powers off. So
Now, the one thing that you are going to need, whether you have a Raspberry Pi 3 or a 3B Plus, you are going to need to have an additional Wi-Fi dongle, just like that one. See if I can get my fat head out of the way. So you're going to need a Wi-Fi dongle. For whatever reason, this software doesn't work well with the onboard Wi-Fi of the Raspberry Pi, which is disappointing, to say the least.
I'll have to look
But-
into it. I'm sure there's just a driver they have to bring across, but for the time being, just get it on LAN.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go grab some power for this. I'll be right back. And Brian, if you can answer some of those questions.
Yeah, I can hit it. I just want to say
will,
hello to the 44 people watching us right now. This is a great
Wow.
turnout today.
Yeah, great turnout. I will go and grab myself the power for this, and we will show you what the AstroPrint looks like on the Touch. Hang on.
Brilliant. Okay, guys, we got rid of Richard. Let's talk about upgrades. What do we got here going on?
Can you hear what's going on?
Oh, yeah, I can hear everything.
Okay.
Let's see here. Hey, a state of panic?
This is what I want.
Which touchscreen did you get there, a state of panic? Did you get the official kit with the whole case and everything? I do like that one because of the capacitive sensors, but it wasn't cheap. I know I was in Minneapolis and I bought it from Micro Center, and I've been waiting for these ones to come out for a while because before that it was all over the GPIO, and that would cause slow updates and bog down the processor. This one actually takes a straight HDMI signal, so I could hook up a non-HDMI source into this, or a non-Raspberry Pi source. Yes, Grace. Hello from Norway. That's a fair jog. Is it snowing out your way like it is here? As you can see, I don't know about the US, but right now it's Monopoly season at McDonald's, and
Yeah.
I might be abusing that a little bit.
You think?
It turns out you get 2 Monopoly stickers on every hash brown, so I bought a bunch of hash browns this morning. That's why I'm so energetic at this hour. Well, actually, I've been up since 5:30 thanks to the time zone change. So
Oh, wait, no, that's tomorrow. Tonight at midnight.
no, just me flying back. I lost
Oh,
2.
yeah.
The 2 hours got messy. Long runner 7-inch capacitive touchscreen. Cool. I'll have to take a look into that. Dubai. Ooh. Well, you got that ski hill, right? In the capital there. So that Johnny Gardner, we have plenty. I'm sure soon enough we'll have plenty of snow. I'm complaining, but the ground's actually clear right now. It was snowing last night when I came back. A lot of people blamed me for bringing it back.
You think?
Yeah, just a little bit. Oh boy, let's see. Hey, there's my order. At least the store's pretty quick. Will it let me just download the software? We're getting it ready.
We're getting
How-
it ready.
How can it not just have me give me a download link? Oh well.
I have to sign in here. Hang on a second.
Just bought that today. Yeah, let me know how it works out. I think this one is only like a 320 by 480 resolution. So it's not going to give a lot of workspace for stuff on the UI. But
Yeah, this one here with the 7-inch touchscreen, it's 800 by 600.
Oh, yeah, I think it's 800 by 480, isn't it? Or
480, yes.
480, yeah,
correct.
because it's 16 by 9. Yeah, I shamefully bought that Pi display and I never actually hooked it up. I really should. But
I have 2 of these displays, so it's nice.
for those of you guys who might not know, I actually am still running a Raspberry Pi Model B, like the 256 megabyte RAM version, as a data logger for temperatures. And these things are just robust. You can't kill them. So just a question out for the audience here today. What 3D printer do you own? I'm genuinely curious because, as you can tell, I'm a bit of a Creality fan with my CR10, and I've been eyeballing buying an Ender 3 on all those 11/11 sales coming up, but I'm just curious what you guys have. CR10S, yeah, great. It's a great printer. I love that machine. As you can see, I've done everything in the book I could to it, but it's still running. 2 Ender 3s. Ooh. That's got to be nice.
I'm now logging into my AstroPrint.
Hey, James Kaplan, let me know how your Hypercube Evo build looks or is going. I'm thinking about building one myself. I've got more than enough parts. I just need to buy the aluminum. The design looks good. It's just it's not as easy to get 3030 aluminum in Canada. There's a bit of a lead time.
Let's see if I've got the
camera. Well, it looks like we basically got a Creality fan club here. Art, how you liking that Tronzy? I've heard some heard some stories about the Tronzies, and they weren't very good. It's okay, and as well too, I've got a Monoprice Select Mini, and the reason I don't mention it is because it's in pieces right now in the other room, and all those pieces are going to go towards my Hypercube build. Yeah, the Ender 3 is an amazing printer. I keep getting tempted to buy one. The fact is I don't need one, but that doesn't stop me from wanting one.
It's supposed to be starting video here on my camera, but
yeah, Wiley, how you liking that TiVo Tornado? The price is not a huge differential here for the CR10S, honestly, when you ship them on over. So, I know they're a lot cheaper in the US. Ah, we got another Linear Rails fan in here. Yeah, I am loving my CR10. You can just barely see it at the bottom there, but it's got 2 Linear Rails MGN 15Hs on my CR10. It's a little noisier, and I may actually update the stepper this week because I think it's wearing a little bit on the Creality stock one, but the movement's so much smoother. And Johnny, I would have followed your advice too. Originally my modded one was my Monoprice, and then my Creality was leave it as stock. But yeah, that's curiosity killed the cat, you know.
I have to do a quick shutdown.
Really?
Yeah, because I put on this camera.
Oh man. Remember when USB came out in 96, and they said everything's plug and play. You never have to reboot your PC. Remember that?
Well, you do with Linux.
No.
Sometimes you do.
No, you just ls/dev/video star, and it should identify right away. Maybe the runtime doesn't detect it without a reboot, but you don't have to reboot the whole OS.
Well, I just rebooted it. It doesn't take much. So this is what you get when you first see your Astro Box once it's on there.
Oh, nice.
So now it's initializing. I don't know how well.
Hold up, Anders. Are you saying you have 7 linear rails on your machine? So what? 2 on the bottom, 2 on the sides. I'm not getting the math here. You got to tell me that. We may actually have to see this thing. Marco wants to know Raspberry Pi 3 or Orange Pi. Very good question. Now, yes, the Orange Pi is a superior system, but there is zilch for community support when you compare it to the Raspberry Pi. I've been running Raspberry Pi since the first day they were released in North America, and apart from my own programming follies and apart from really cheap SD card failures, as you can tell, I visit Costco a lot. I buy a lot of the SanDisk Ultra Pro 64 gig cards. I have a Pi outside right now that has been running solid for 3 years from -40 to +35 Celsius. That machine has way more robust operation, and at the end of the day, you're going to want to look for consistency in operation when running a printer. So my opinion is Raspberry Pi 3, unless the Orange Pi is readily available and someone has a distribution image pre-built for Octoprint or AstroPrint. Any comments, Richard?
No, I think you hit that right on the head.
Oh, the Orange Pi Zero. You know what? I got to give that company credit. They somehow managed to copy Raspberry Pi's design within weeks of Raspberry Pi releasing a new build. And, you know, I started to think that Raspberry Pi as a company, that the foundation was falling a little bit behind on specs. But then I managed to get a hold of some of these new 3B pluses. If you haven't seen one of these yet, they've actually gone and put a proper shroud on the CPU. They've actually covered up the Wi-Fi. You're going to get apparently 5 gigahertz on that now, and it's ridiculously stable. Just don't go for that PoE add-on. I've heard a bunch of nightmare things with it not working. I think they were recalling it actually. But
interesting.
At the end of the day, you don't need a lot of horsepower to run a 3D printer. You need a lot of horsepower if you want to run all the add-ons. Now, with that said, I have not tried the Clipper firmware yet on the Raspberry Pi to run the printer entirely from the Pi. I am curious about it, but I'm going to stick with what works for now, which is the embedded firmware.
Okay, what heat or hot end, I'm assuming, upgrade do people here recommend on the CR10S budget friendly? Well, budget friendly, stick with what you got. If you want to spend the extra money, this is from S Grace.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got it in your budget, I would highly recommend going with the Micro Swiss.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Micro Swiss all metal hot end kit from Micro Swiss. Of course, there's not one in the, well, there's something in this box, but this is my old CR10 extrude or hot end that I pulled off.
And yes, it's normal for us to all have ours looking like that, look like charred, burned remains. It's just normal with your printer. Don't worry, you're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah, you're not doing anything wrong. I should probably talk about this for a second. Now, there has been a lot of questions. Do I need the insulation on the block or don't I? You know, over time, that insulation is going to get damaged and it's going to come off anyway. So I personally just take it off. And I will put a silicone sock on this. You're going to use a silicone sock. You can find them from most manufacturers for a 7, 8, or 9. Is the one that you want, and that will fit over this because this is a Mark 8 block along with a Mark 8 nozzle, so a Mark 8 sock will fit on there just fine. To upgrade this to go to a much better print head, again, you're going to use the Micro Swiss, and the Micro Swiss is everything you need. It has the nozzle, it has the block, it also has the cool zone, and it also has the throat and the inlet for your Bowden tube, which is a little different than the inlet that you see that I've got here in my hand. The one problem, and you guys will probably be able to see this inside, maybe not. This has a lot of crap in it because what has happened over time is the Bowden tube doesn't fit down quite as tight as it should inside that throat that's inside there. So what happens is as you're printing, and this is where you'll start to notice it looks like it's under extruding. What's happening is this area up into the cool zone is backfilling with molten plastic. And it's going all the way around the outside of the Bowden tube that's placed in there. Because of the tolerance on that throat, it's just a little bit bigger than 4 mil. Yeah, 4 mil. So it's like 4.1, 4.05 mil bigger than the actual outside diameter of your Bowden tube. So to combat that, you'll more than likely want to change that anyway, because you can only do PLA and maybe ABS. PETG you shouldn't do in this throat or any of the other higher temperatures because you will melt that PTFE liner and then you'll just end up with all kinds of problems anyway. So I would go to an all metal like the Micro Swiss. and replace this out. The micro Swiss, I think, is right around $85. I know I've taken a long time to answer that question, but
you know, I think we almost need to answer that question with another question. What
Okay.
problem are you trying to solve by replacing your hot end?
good one.
Because there is various different solutions depending on what you're trying to do. The micro Swiss is a great encompassing of multiple issue solutions, but it may also not solve your issue. Hey, Anders, how's it going?
Hey, there's Anders.
It
It went black. There we go.
Oh, yeah, crappy connection, I guess.
Been there.
I don't have the internet line down in the basement yet, so I have to rely on cellular.
Come upstairs and do it.
So, Anders, have you been running Clipper yet on your printer?
Clipper. Yeah, it's running Clipper really from the start.
Oh, nice.
So I got lucky also because, like, just when I installed it, the bed leveling started working.
Which bed leveling sensor are you using?
I'm using the BL Touch.
Oh, nice.
And how do you
I
like
have
the BL Touch?
I really like it. I had one of the clones before, like the 3D Touch, because you can get them cheap, but the pin would just fall down during prints, so it crapped out.
Gotcha.
But apparently they are quite easy to fix, because they use shrink wrap to get the magnet to get stuck on the sensor pin. And many of the clones, they leave the shrink wrap too long.
Oh, okay.
Open it up and cut it.
Gotcha. I'm just going to quickly answer Keith Camp's question here. He says he doesn't see a PTFE lining tube in the hot end of the Ender 3. That PTFE liner comes all the way down to about there. Actually, no, it comes down to about there. See where my finger is? When you put the Bowden tube in, that's your PTFE liner that is coming all the way down to just about there where the nozzle meets that throat.
Yeah, I think for a while they were using a hardened one
They were at one time.
It was
That's the first gen, I think it was.
Yeah, and nowadays, now you're actually feeding your Bowden tube all the way down through that hot end. All right, Anders, you got to show off that printer. Let's have a look at this thing.
Yeah, I don't really see where I'm pointing the camera, but yeah.
I see your Bowden tubes going through your board there in the top, so that's fully enclosed in. Oh, I forget what that word's called. Richard will smack me for not knowing it.
It's called OSB.
There we go. That is
make a woodworker out of you yet, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real rat's nest. So I just ordered some new cables to try to get something decent with that.
Yeah, but that's looking pretty nice there. Is that Mamoru base or what are you using? What's
the ask?
It looks very close to the Mamarubot style.
Yeah, this is the Tronse X5S, but
okay.
Yeah, not so much anymore.
Well, you know, as much as we've seen printers that can print faster and are cheaper and so forth, I've noticed at the end of the day, to maintain that quality, you're still running at the same speed you would have run your MakerBot first gen at half the time.
Yeah.
I'm just glad to see a Tronzy actually still running.
Yeah. Now they also have the LCD support in Clipper.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
It's working.
Yeah, Richard,
setup you got there on
I think they fixed like last week.
Yeah, Richard, do you know much about Clipper? Or
No, I haven't looked at it. I do want to dive into it a little bit for future episodes so I know what I'm doing.
so for those of you who don't know, what Clipper does is basically Clipper, you put a firmware on your printer that does nothing basically. It accepts all the information from the serial port over USB. And then all the math calculations for movement actually move over to a device like a Raspberry Pi. And so
Yeah.
it's supposed to deal with all the bottlenecks we're reaching with 8-bit processors. So what we may have to do at some point is put it to the test and say, is Clipper going to outpace something like a 32-bit controller? So,
Yeah, I think that's the issue. I mean, Clipper, I like it when you tinker because you don't need to reflash the firmware. You just edit a config file and like restart the Clipper service, and then you're fine to go.
right, because there's pretty much nothing running on the microcontroller, right?
Yeah, exactly. The microcontroller just do what the Pi tells it to do, so
Right.
the controller doesn't know what's connected or not. That's for the Pi.
Right. I'm just going to bounce over to the chat here real quick.
Yeah.
S. was saying his reason for the upgrade is to print better quality at higher temps. So if you want to go higher temps, the Micro Swiss is the way to go because you're going to an all-metal hot end. And that will allow you to print up to all sorts of flexibles and different materials like that. Do you need a bootloader to update the firmware on the Ender 3 Pro? Ender 3 Pro, I believe the motherboard they used in that one, Richard, was that the 1.1.2 or the 2.1 board?
It actually was the exact same board that's in the Ender 3, which is the 1.1.3 board.
Okay, so yes, you will need to update the firmware on the Ender 3 Pro if you want to load a newer version of Marlin on there. Does Derek sell the boards?
Yes.
But does he sell them pre-flashed with bootloaders, I think is the question.
Not with a bootloader. It's very easy to put one on if you've got a Raspberry, or not a Raspberry Pi, but an Arduino Uno. If you need me to do it, I can certainly do it for you because I have them available. I have it set up available.
Yeah, Wiley, yes. Yeah, it's the same exact same board. I don't know why they haven't. Yeah, I can tell you why they haven't is because the form factor of that board in there does not line up with the screw holes for the ones that are used in the 10S and other printers. So it would require some modification on their production line right now, and I think they're not wanting to modify that Ender 3 design too much at this stage. Man, I was really hoping they'd email me back with that product download quicker than this. So hoping to get that Astro Box going. But for now, what do you guys got running on your printers this weekend? As you can see, mine's just sitting there doing nothing. I was glad it came back online after having it powered off for 3 weeks, but nothing on her yet today.
You need to bootloader it up. Okay. Richard, I will say to you, sir, once you tell your wife, I will make a couch available if you need it.
We have the printers. We can print one. We can
A couch?
Yeah, bachelor couch.
Oh, yeah, we could do that. Yeah, it's the same board in the Ender 3 as in the Ender 3 Pro. This is why I don't think they should have called it an Ender 3 Pro. Basically, what they've done, I agree with the $20 increase, not the $100 increase, for anybody that saw my video on it. If they were charging $100 more for that printer, it wouldn't be worth it, in my opinion. But seeing as it's only $20 more for the Ender 3 Pro with the addition of the magnetic bed, the Meanwell power supply, those are the only two things that they've added to this printer. The Meanwhile power supply alone, I think, is worth the $20 upgrade. But in all honesty, I would say that, you know, for what it is, it still has the same board. It still has the same head. It's a great little printer to get started with at, you know, at $349 Canadian. It's still a bargain for a printer that's an all metal printer.
Now, Anders, I saw you just put that comment in there. I'm going to cautiously agree with you because there's a certain threshold when cheap is too cheap. There's a point of no return, okay? And I'm going to set that number at $200 US. The moment you go below that, everything you're getting is such trash that you're going to spend more on upgrades to bring it up to like an Ender 3.
Yeah, I know what you mean because I also have this machine here. This was the CTC Div i3.
All those i3 clones, you gotta love them.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we start building one next week on the show.
And yeah, so now it has all metal chassis instead. So
Now, Anders, I noticed you've got tape on the bed.
yeah, that's the thing. I haven't printed with this printer yet, and the tape came like original out of the box.
Gotcha.
So I'm gonna remove it when I start printing.
Yeah, I would just use glue stick. Tape is just such a pain in the ass.
You know, I ran painter's tape on my monoprice for the first couple of months, and
So did I.
I mean, if you replace it every print job, it's actually going to be all right. But what I found was it started, if you had it for more than one print job, it would start building up almost grease from your fingers or anything like that. And even with isopropyl alcohol, you couldn't get it quite clean because then it would start dissolving the glue on the back of it. So at a certain point, you got to be like, is this even cost effective anymore?
Yeah,
That's true.
I'm all for hairspray. The cheaper, the better.
Yeah, the hairspray thing, you know, Richard and I have talked about this before, but the biggest issue is overspray. You really, you know, the moment you start getting that gunked up and other stuff, it's not worth it. Mine, it's hard to see on my camera because it is just this really cheap IP camera I bought, but it's a mirror surface that I bought from Lowe's here for 6 of them for $16 Canadian or something. And then I took 800 grit sandpaper and actually sanded it. And as long as I'm not going gung-ho at like 100 millimeters per second, if I'm printing that first layer at 15 to 20, I get a perfect mirror first layer, and it also bonds really well. As soon as that bed cools down, it falls off.
I agree with you.
That could be something to try. I do have plenty of mirrors.
Yeah, and they're cheap, right? You know, the sandpaper thing, the reason I did it, I'm like, I've got 5 more of them right here. What am I going to do with them, right? I'm still on my first mirror after 6 months. So you just don't get a cheap plaything like that very often.
That's
Sean,
true. That's very true.
sugar water, I've heard about that. I'm not entirely, I guess it depends on how well you dissolve it and what your concentrations are. But if you have like a tried and true concentration, you know, let us know. Maybe we'll do an entire video on different bed adhesions and just
That's something I've been thinking about, actually. Speaking of different beds and i3 printers, for anybody that doesn't know, I posted a picture on Friday on our Facebook group about a build that we are starting. And what we're going to do with that build is actually walk you through the whole build. We were going to have a bill of materials, what STLs we used, what overall design that we used. And we're going to put pricing in Canadian dollars, unfortunately, not US or European, because Canada's pricing is a little different. You can do the conversion for yourself, I would imagine.
Hey, just whatever price you see for you Americans, that's a 30% discount you get, okay? Just consider it like that. You're getting 30% off, okay? It'll make you feel a lot better.
Yeah. But we are building a Prusa style Mark 2.5 printer. We aren't using a Rambo board, obviously. We aren't using authorized Prusa parts, but we are putting a Mark 42 or a Mark 52 magnetic bed on that one. It is only going to be 12 volt, not 24. because the bed that we have is only 12 volt. But that's going to take up the majority of the next few episodes for you guys. And then we're going to go through Marlin and take you through line by line and build that code for that machine. And then we'll end up putting that up after I've tested it onto our Facebook page.
Hey,
Mark says he wants, or his wife wants, her own 3D printer. Which, in your view, CR10S or Ender 3? Well, depends what your budget is there, Mark. Honestly, I would be adding in, if you've got the money for the CR10S, and if she's going to be making bigger things, then I would go with CR10S. If she's just going to do small tchotchke kind of things, I would go with the Ender 3. The Ender 3 still has a decent build volume at 220 by 220 by 250. So
I'm still of the thought that 2 Ender 3s are greater than 1 CR10S.
That's what I got.
How's it going there, Wiley?
Hey, there's Wiley. You know, I've got 2 CR10Ss here at home, and then I've got the Ender 3 at the shop along with my Wanhao Duplicator 6 and my custom build, which was the Wilson 2 version printer. And in all honesty, all those printers work very well. It's all dependent on where you want to put your money.
Johnny Gardner wants to know, is there a cheap way to fix an ANET A8? I'll go with, depending on what's wrong, the dump a minimum fee is $20.
They can build a hypercube.
Exactly.
So Marco says, a good power supply for my Ender 3. If you've got the old thick power supply, the one that was almost a couple inches thick, then I would get rid of that and get an equivalent in a Meanwell.
So I was looking at
24 volt.
Yeah, I was looking into the Meanwells this morning because I wasn't getting a clear answer what the difference between the LRS and the RSD series were. Because the RSDs go up to 500 watt there.
Right.
But it looks like the RSD series actually have a remote pin to power on and off, which it is supported in Marlin, but I don't know with those PCBs.
Interesting.
Yeah, the LRS 25 or 24-350. I got that backwards. LRS 350-24 is probably the best power supply you can get for your Ender 3, and it's what they're shipping with the Ender 3 Pro.
Gotcha. Mark says she wants bigger. Well, Mark, I can't help you there.
Yeah.
But if she wants a bigger print volume, the CR10S is your choice.
It's the greatest bang for your buck, and if budget is an issue, watch for the big 11/11 sale in China coming up, because everyone's going to have their Creality stuff on sale. I was really tempted to buy another 10S, but I'm like, I just don't need it, you know?
Get yourself an Ender.
Well, I thought about that, but I'm like, you know, at this point, I'd much rather go and buy a 32-bit MKS S-Base board, get going on Marlin 2.0, and get more features in my CR10S.
Yeah, I suppose.
I mean, bear in mind, I'm the Marlin monkey, right? So I love to mess around with that stuff.
Yeah.
The one thing I've seen lately, which is very strange, is guys that are taking their Ender 3s and putting on the, what is that board?
The Duet?
The Duet.
That's a lot of
Wi-Fi Duet.
Into an Ender.
The weird thing about that is the Duet costs just as much as the freaking printer.
That's what I'm saying. It's way too much money to stick into an Ender. I mean, it's a good printer and all, but
10 Holt is asking Ender 3 Pro or Ender 5. I'll start answering that one and just go straight to Ender 3 Pro, because the Ender 5 is a brand new design from Creality, and it's probably going to go through 7 more hardware revisions in the next 6 months.
And it is not officially available to us as retailers over at Spool 3D.
No, they're still.
I would not waste my money on the Pro. It's not worth it for the
$20 more. It is.
Yeah, if you're buying from Spool 3D in Canada, the difference in price is only $20. If you're going straight from the manufacturer, I know they're trying to clear out the Ender 3s right now, the original ones, so you can get it for a pretty good price break. But when they first launched it, they were adding like $80, I think, Canadian or something onto the buy price.
Yeah, it's like $110 in this
Right.
state.
To give you an idea, that Meanwell power supply, which is the main reason you'd want to upgrade to the Pro, is
So why would you do that? Buy one. Just buy a meat.
That's what I'm saying.
$5.
It's way cheaper.
They're only like $25 or something, ain't they?
It's for her, so price not matter. Okay, buy her the CR10S5.
No, don't get that one. It's only got a 300 by 300 heated zone.
Oh, no, wait, yeah. If prices don't matter, go buy an M3D. It'll give you the print quality of the Ender 3, but for $3,500.
There you go.
That's funny.
Or buy the One-How Duplicator 9,
Oh, there you go.
500, which I think comes in at around $1,400.
Yeah, the prices on some of those. I'm still of the opinion you should never spend more than $1,000 on a 3D printer unless you're doing it for a business.
I agree 100%.
I mean, I love the i3 Mark III, but I'm never paying like $1,400 Canadian for that thing. Hey, Richard, here's a question for you. Stock CR10S jerk and acceleration. What do you use?
Stock CR10S acceleration is set to.
I think it's 500, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 500, and I've set my jerk to 5.
Slow and steady wins the race with that one, to be honest.
Got that right.
I found that out with the tornado and the big nozzle.
Oh, yeah. How fast were you ripping her at?
Oh, about 25 or 30, I forget.
Yeah. You should see my CR10S when I mean, it can handle, now with all these linear rails, it can handle 2,500 acceleration, but man, does that thing shake my table.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. It's actually not worth it, too. The quality just falls off because now you're dealing with slippage and reverse torque on the belts, and they just aren't designed for it.
I should ask WF Forwarder. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. I should ask you, what slicing software are you using? Because that's going to make a difference.
Absolutely. CR10S5 is what she's looking at.
Have fun.
Just, make it rain there, buddy, because that is one expensive printer.
Yeah, it
I
is.
was going to say to Mark, you better be getting a lap dances if he's buying one of those for her.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's like buying a ring.
So, Wiley, what do you got running on your printer there this morning?
Well, I ran out of filament. I was printing some feet with the balls on the end for the tornado to sit on. And so I ran out of filament, so I printed the sockets out and was just going to glue them on, And the only balls that I can get around here are racket balls. So I had to enlarge them to fit a racket ball because these are for the squash balls. They're a lot smaller.
Yeah, I've seen a few people do that mod and actually have them sitting on racket balls and whatnot. I've heard it's pretty good for the sound, but let me know how it works with the vibration there, because I figured it was just going to oscillate certain vibrations.
Yeah, I don't know. That's why. I mean, I'm just trying it. I got it up on just regular feet on the table right now, and the whole table shakes. Vibrates,
Oh yeah,
jumps around. And I'm trying to get this under to print some chainmail for my daughter, but I think the nozzle's clogged on it.
what size nozzle are you running on that?
Orator is saying that he's using Cura 15. I'm going to recommend, sir, that you upgrade to the latest version of Cura, which is 3.5.1, and you can control all of the aspects of your printer right from there. And I've done a video on that, so you can go and have a look.
Yeah, do not use Cura 15 anymore. There was only one feature I liked with Cura 15 that they dumped when they went to the new ones, and that was scale prints to the maximum build volume size. That was a pretty fun feature back then. Oh, hey, they've got the Cura 3.6 beta available.
Yeah, I saw that. It's still in development. You're probably not going to see it come out until the new year.
Yeah, well, they need to take a break. I'm just looking back. Bear in mind, as of this time last year, they were at Cura 3.0.4, and now they're up to 3.5.1, so they're dumping
Okay, so
versions like no tomorrow.
Foxaran is asking, does updating firmware actually improve quality overall? Yes and no. It all depends on how that firmware is set up. If it's set up with default settings like jerk of 20 and acceleration in that 3000 range, then it's not going to improve your print quality unless you manually change that. I would say it's going to give you a better printing experience because it's going to give you more options. So you can do things like baby stepping, you can do bed leveling, all that other kind of stuff. It's more so a better control upgrade than it is a print upgrade.
That, and there are a lot of bug fixes that have been incorporated into the core operations since your stock firmware. We've encountered a few of them on different printers, and there are a lot of different SD card stability enhancements. I look into it. I mean, it can be an intimidating task from a quick view, but it's rather quick. You just want to look at what is supported by your printer and understand what the settings are inside if it's not working right. But you can always flash back to stock firmware thanks to, at least with Creality, thanks to them open sourcing their stock source code.
Now, do I recommend running STLs through Mesh Mixer before slicing? It all depends on the STL. I don't typically do it. It's not part of my workflow. If I find that the STL is not printing for whatever reason, I then may take it into Mesh Mixer and just have a look at it and see where the errors are. Hey, there's Marlon. Hello, sir. Yeah, it's not necessary to bring all your STLs into Mesh Mixer.
You got to follow the old rule of if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So if your STL imports fine, looks fine in Cura or S3D, stick with it. If you're starting to get errors, put it through Mesh Mixer, or even do what I do. If you have Windows 10, open it up in the Windows 3D Builder, click the repair button when it questions you, and then save a new STL, and I've never had a problem with that.
So as we are approaching our last half hour here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of switch gears now. I want to answer a couple of the questions that we had throughout the week regarding, well, I shouldn't say questions. It was more of, are you freaking crazy doing this to your Ender 3?
Yes. Yes, he is.
Yes, I am. And I want to address the one that got the most comments, and that's the bearing block that I put onto my Ender 3 on the Z-axis rod. Now, a lot of people have said that it prints like crap, it doesn't do well, you're going to get Z banding, all kinds of issues. Now, because I built my Ender and everything on my Ender is square, putting that bearing block on top has actually helped my prints. Now, the key to doing this is when you build an Ender 3, you have to make sure that that rod is perfectly square up and down. Equal distance from the bottom and the top, and perfectly square in the center of that rail that it hides behind. There's two screws that are on the extruder and mount for that rod to go through. Those two screws from the factory are tightened down. If you take that little nut off of there, loosen the two screws, take it right off, you're going to see that in the bracket, it is elongated. There's an elongated hole for the screw to go through. What you want to do when you're building your Ender 3 is you want to take your Allen wrench and you just want to give those a little bit of a quarter turn back so it just makes them a little bit loose. Then that nut can go back and forth inside the hole, and you will get better prints by allowing it to do that. Now, because mine is square, of course, I use my Ender 3, as everybody knows, as a test bed platform for a lot of things. So far, that bearing block is working perfectly for me. I have no Z-banding. I have no other issues with print quality. It comes out great. I even printed a 28mm figure on there with that bearing block, and I'll tell you, it looks amazing.
The thing to remember too with the bearing block is it's something that is there are certain mods on a printer that you can reverse and some that you can't. So the bearing block, it's one of the easiest things you can give it a try. And as much, flack as we can receive for suggesting something like that, in my opinion, if you're having issues by adding that in, you've got other issues with your printer. Whether it's that whether it's your rod isn't straight to begin with or isn't lined up perfectly perpendicular in your coupler, that rod should be dead straight the whole way up. And, Creality, they design it with that one bearing to be able to freely move to handle defects, if you will, in the rod. But that rod, again, should be dead straight. And this coupler should just simply be preventing vibrations as you get to the upper end of your build.
Fully agree.
So by all means, if you want to see how straight your Z rod is, all you have to do is take off that top bearing, look at it, maybe tape a ruler or something to the side of your 2020 extrusion, and just have your motor move up and down. Probably a good 100mm should do. You just have to get one rotation, and I bet you're gonna see it go and do a little something like this at maybe a micro level. And so if you go and introduce a bearing at a fixed point with that, you're adding extra strain to your motor. If your motor can't do those micro step turns, well, that would cause banding. So
it'll also cause binding in the Z rod as well.
Absolutely. So, as I said, I know people like to say it's a bad upgrade, it's going to cause problems. I'll give you two options. Option one, look and make sure your rod is straight. Or option two, just undo the mod. If your printer was working fine before, why do it, right?
And this is why I do these upgrades, is so that you guys don't have to. For me to do them and test them, and if I'm finding good results, I will let you know that I found good results. If I don't find good results, of course, I'm going to tell you that it's crap. But so far for me, it's working. It comes down to the way that you build your machine. I also noticed when I was building the Ender 3 Pro that whole bottom carriage, the whole bottom assembly for the Y carriage and the bed is actually twisted coming out of the box. It'll twist coming out of the box. And the reason that is because the 4 bolts that hold that whole H assembly together are not completely tight. So the split washers that are in there, or the lock washers that are in there, are not tightened all the way down, so they're not locked in. So what you need to do first and foremost is get that down on the table, get those rods, your Z rods or your Z stands on and the top on, then just give it a little bit of a twist either way to drop those feet, all 4 of them, flat on the table, then tighten up those 4 bolts, and you're good to go before you put on your Z motor and your Z rod.
Actually, both of my Enders came and they were both twisted. The bottom frames were.
Yeah. Doesn't surprise me.
No.
I mean, the Ender 3, it is an excellent budget printer.
Oh,
but
it is.
With that, you have to understand the reason why companies like Joseph Prusa and all those guys charge so much is because every single printer is QA'd. When you buy an Ender 3, you're going to get a good printer, but I can guarantee that no 2 Enders will be 100% the same calibration.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, I got 2 of them right here, and they're totally different. I mean, they're like separate worlds.
WFO Rider's asking who sells straight rods.
Well,
that's a challenging question because, I mean, the fact is, no company that's selling rods right now to us is the original manufacturer, right? These are all
That's right.
done in steel factories and whatnot, sold at wholesale. The answer really is they should all be straight. And
That's
if
a
you
lot.
buy if
All
you
that
buy
shit.
if you buy from an American company, there's a good chance they probably have a higher QA than if you buy from China. Same with Canadian. I don't know if we can get steel rods here in Canada. You know,
We
at
can
the
get the
cost
steel
rate.
rods, we just can't get the lead screws.
Right. So basically, I mean, you could, in theory, go and buy one from a company like Joseph Prusa and use one of those rods there. But then you're doing retrofitting and all that. It's just a matter of you can usually get around it. So I would first check and see if the rod is straight, and then I would check and see if it was screwed in straight in the coupler. So that little mod that we were talking about there is actually a great tool that you can use to align your rod on the top and the bottom.
Yep.
And then if you see wobbles in the center, you've got a warped rod.
The other thing about the Ender 3 is the bracket that holds that whole motor assembly in place for the extruder and the Z motor, or the Z wheels, is not bent perfectly at 90 degrees. It's actually off by about 7 degrees. So it's actually sitting at an angle. So if you want, of course, you can take it and put it into a bench vise, and then by hitting the actual bend, not hitting far out on the bracket, but hitting the actual bend, you can actually get it to be true and flat. And that also takes out some of the problem. And it's just due to Chinese manufacturing.
Any manufacturer, really. You know, it's
Yeah,
just
that's true.
And yes, Anders, yeah, you're right there. It's going to cost you 10 times as much sometimes. And that's, you know what? That's why I buy 5 of them from China instead of buying one from America, because I have better luck. But as soon as I start seeing like 8 out of 10 defects, you bet I'm going to buy from a reputable company. Case in point, my hot ends. I bought so many cheap Amazon, you know, like J-Head E3D V6 ripoffs. And I know this is going to be controversial here, but I had so many issues with them that just vanished when I bought the official kit. And now, I'm not saying don't buy the cheap ones, because some of them do work out great for some people. But I had enough of them fail that it was worthwhile for me to buy the official one, and I haven't had any problems since.
Hey guys, well, I'm going to take off here.
All right, buddy.
All right, bud. Good seeing you today. Thanks for dropping in.
Yep, not a problem. We'll see you guys later.
Absolutely.
So yeah, this is time is our question and answer time of the day. So Anders, you were saying something. I cut you off.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was just thinking about the V6 and the clones. I mean, a cheap way is to buy the clone and then you order the original heat break.
Yeah. Because,
I mean, the heat break is often the problem with the clones. And just buying that isn't that expensive.
I agree with you 100% on that. I've bought the clones in the past, which are like $8 to buy a V6 clone. But then you go and buy the heat break, which is, well, how much does
it was like $25 or something, $30?
No, I don't think they're that. Not the heat breaks.
I'll have to check.
I'm going there right now.
I don't remember.
Here's the one thing I can tell you is I bought a knockoff micro Swiss hot end for my Creality when I first set it up there, and although it was fine for the first install, the aluminum they used in the heat break, or not in the heat break, but actually in the heat block, was so malleable that over time it started wearing away, and I started getting heat creep issues and everything. So, you know, there's more to it than just the heat break. But the heat break, number one, I would guarantee 100% buy official, even if you buy the knockoff ones.
From Spool, the E3D V6 heat breaks are $23.
Sorry, what was that there, Rich?
The E3D V6 heat breaks are $23 from Spool.
And that's Canadian dollars. So
that's Canadian.
Yeah, so I mean, even if you go and buy the knockoff one, you're still coming in way cheaper overall for the entire official assembly. But what you're going to find with the knockoffs is the as well too is the my verbiage is gone here today, but basically the boring in the knockoff nozzles is just absolute trash. I would throw that nozzle in the garbage right away and buy like a hardened nozzle.
And the original thermistor is really nice.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I should say that too. I mean, part of the reason I'm talking about buying all the official stuff is because I tried to use a knockoff heater cartridge on my CR10S, and it failed after about 3 weeks. So, was the cost savings worth it? Definitely not. But yeah, floor is open, guys. Throw out any question you got. Yeah,
I'll put the link in the description again if anybody wants to join us. This is a good time to come in and be a part of the show for the last half hour or 25 minutes.
Yeah, come on in, show your printer, show your prints. We love to see if your stuff actually comes out, because half the time I'm showing off mods to my printer to make it print more mods for my printer, so it's not very interesting.
But
now,
that's
I
the main.
probably should address. Go ahead. What was that, Anders?
Yeah, that's the main point with the 3D printer. You print new parts for the printer.
And I'm slowly getting back into mechanical design with it, because I'm trained in mechatronics, and my entire job is doing process automation. So I love to, I've got the electrical down pat, I've got the controls down pat, but it's always the mechanical parts missing. So, I'm now starting to go and find some cool models that are scaled down, turbines, little V6 engines and stuff like that. That's just really cool to learn. Because as you print the parts, you're also understanding how it all comes together and how it works mechanically. And, this stuff's opening up a new horizon for me for design. I'm not the greatest Fusion 360 designer either. So if you've seen any of my work, it's very kind of crude, but it does the job too.
Now, I didn't answer the question of the MOSFET yet.
Oh yeah, I suppose that was our whole conversation.
I got sidetracked on that one.
You started with
do you need a MOSFET on your 3D printer? Yes or no, and why? What does it do? First and foremost, a MOSFET basically reroutes your power to the bed directly, and giving it some insurance so that you don't burn up your bed. And it also adds an intermediate layer between your bed and the control board that's inside your printer. The reason for that is then you're not directly running that bed in and out of the board and not blowing a MOSFET on the board like I do. Because once you blow a MOSFET on the board, that board's hooped. You might as well throw it in the garbage. Yes, everything else will work on that board, but the MOSFET won't. And you can experience errors and fire and all kinds of things. So do I think a MOSFET's good, and why do I put it on? I put it on for that reason: A, safety; B, as it also heats up my bed faster, because I'm drawing power directly from the power supply and not from the board. So yeah, it's extra insurance, and that's why I think a MOSFET is essential. Where do you put it? You can download or design your own little adapter, like Brian did for me. He had designed the adapter that I put on the Ender 3, where we just stuck the board on the outside, ran the cables in, and we were good to go. I have since upgraded the cheap one that I put on there, which was the MKS, because I blew 2 of those. And I've gone to the Large version, which is a little bit more expensive, but it can handle the power draw much better, I think.
Now, I gotta ask, did you actually manage to torch the FET, or did it just fail?
It just failed. And it failed in the same spot that the first one failed in, and that's right at the connection points.
Really?
Where it comes in and goes back out. Yeah, because it's not grounded.
Yeah, but you shouldn't be having surges like that either. I deal a lot with MOSFET design, and so I might actually have to look at these boards and see if they're being isolated and draining properly, because a MOSFET, for those of you who don't know, it's basically a relay, but it's completely solid state. And the reason you do not use a relay, even though they're much cheaper, I know I've been thinking about grabbing some automotive ones at the Canadian Tire behind me. The reason you don't use it is because with all that mechanical transition going on in a relay, you're going to wear through that relay really quickly as your bed gets to temperature, because it's going to be toggling at microsecond speeds. And it'll wear through the amount of times that arm can really handle it.
Correct. Now we have who there's Foxran says, have you tried silicone block near the hot end? Silicone block. Are you talking about a sock over the hot end?
I've tried it, and all it does is prevent me from burning myself as quick.
It does hold the heat in a little bit too.
Yeah, but even the 30-watt cartridge on the E3D hot end, I found it never really loses a lot of heat. And I'm not going at 260 degrees either, though. I'm only printing at 200, 210 for the most part.
I would say it's a bit more stable.
Yeah,
it does stable out or cause more stability to the heat loss. I agree.
It's definitely better than that garbage tape. Okay.
Yeah.
Get rid of that tape, or even if it's on there right now, because all it's going to do is collect filament and give you a blob.
Yep.
And then good luck trying to clean off that hot end. At least when it's all metal and you've screwed up the hot end there, you can heat that thing to like 270 degrees and just grab a little metal scraper and go to town. So for those of you who don't know, the reason we're talking MOSFETs is because the CR10S, and I can't vouch for the original CR10, the CR10S breaks out the MOSFET inside the case for the heating bed, and we haven't had any problems. We had a very interesting temperature situation with the Ender 3 in-house, where it managed to reach, when we stepped out of the room, 114, 117 degrees Celsius, because the MOSFET failed open. And that MOSFET is soldered right onto the Creality board. So if they had gone and put a $10 breakout board in there, it would have been way better than dropping another, what was it, 50, 60 bucks or something for a replacement board.
Yeah, correct.
Ours was under warranty, which was good. But at the same time, if we weren't under warranty, how annoying must that be that you have to replace your entire board over a single failed component?
Boxaround's asking a really interesting question here, and I'm going to address this one myself. It's $1 or 1 pence or whatever it is in Europe for the silicone. Do I remove the screws so the heat doesn't creep up? Do not remove those screws. Let me just find my box here that I was using earlier. There it is. Those screws are in there for a reason. Anybody that tells you that those two little screws right there are giving you heat creep, they don't know what they're talking about. There was a very good video that was put on the internet here just a little while ago, because people have been saying, take them out, take them out. Some people were saying that Creality forgot to remove them. And there's definitive proof on YouTube that they do not cause heat creep, and they don't bother the hot end at all. They are there to keep this nice and square. And you can see from the side here that that is nice and square to the block. So keep them in. I'll try and reference that video.
I'll tell you what. I'm willing to go on a risky venture here. All right. We should at some point try and rent a thermal camera to prove this, because I've had a lot of heat creep issues with different hot ends. And what I'll tell you is that if you're doing your cooling correctly, your heat break, by the time it reaches your upper heat sink, you should be down almost like 50 degrees, to be honest. And those screws, even if they bring heat up, the way those grills and are set up, that should dissipate and shouldn't even carry over to the heat break. But just perhaps, if I can find it in the budget somewhere, I'll see if I can get us a thermal camera to prove it. I've done it with my little inductive heater, with my little laser gun one, and it shows a pretty decent temperature differential.
Okay, here's the link to the video that's going to answer that question definitively. There it is. So we got about 15 minutes left before we go off air. And if anybody wants to join us for an after show, they can. It'll just be talking amongst ourselves. Same link that I put in earlier. Yeah, don't listen to Foxaran. Don't listen to the forums or Reddit. Go and find definitive proof. The problem is, and this is how I proved that you don't get Z-banding on the Ender 3 when you add that bearing block, is I literally printed a tower that was 240 millimeters tall, and there was no Z-banding at all. Do any of us have resin printers? I don't own one. I do have access to them. We are talking right now with Wanhao, and Wanhao may be sending us one of their latest resin printers. And if they do, we'll do an unboxing and a build and a test and show you guys exactly how that goes. I do like resin printers, but they're very, for me, they're very application specific. What about you, Brian?
I really want one, but I do not have the configuration to properly ventilate.
Gotcha.
And that's the one thing you want to do with that is ventilate, because it's very, resin is a whole different level of toxicity. And you know, we've had a couple discussions up here in Canada specifically. Disposing of unused resin is a very complex and expensive process here. So we know a lot of people are going to break the rules and do things like pour it down their sinks, but to dispose of it properly, it's quite a costly adventure. So in my opinion, I don't print enough micro stuff for me to warrant owning my own. It would be better for me to farm it out.
What about you, Anders? Have you tried resin printing? I think we lost Anders.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I think the problem is like just the expense of the resin, and like you have to waste a lot of it. So it will probably be quite expensive compared to normal printing.
Now, Turin Cams, or TK, I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce his name, but 3D Tanks there. He's saying resin's easy to dispose of. You just cure it and make it solid, and then you can dispose of it. I'm going to correct you on that. You cannot just make it solid and dispose of it because of the chemical makeup of the resin. You still have to dispose of it properly in recycling. I know here in Calgary, or actually in Canada, period, it has to be broken out because of the type of plastic that the resin is.
Yeah, we have a very
break
complicated
down in the landfill.
Right. Yeah, and you know, as I said too, I mean, it really depends. You know, in your case, if you're doing 3D tanks and and sorts of miniatures where you're looking for that detail, you might be able to warrant having having a lot more of them. But even in the shop, I think we've only used that any cubic a handful of times.
Yeah.
You know, apart from just having it out there on the floor, because it's a nuisance to maintain if you use it periodically too. And it can go, you can waste a lot of resin easily. So as I said, if you're doing one-offs, it's going to be best to farm it out to someone who has one running all the time.
If you're making a lot of miniatures or stuff that has to be very high detail like jewelry, I think that it's probably the best way to go. But if you're just doing like one-off, like some crystals for your gauntlet, your infinity gauntlet, if you've made one of those, then it's really not worth purchasing at any price, really. I mean, the ones that we have over at Spool, the any cubic is about $6.99, and the Wanhao that we've got is $7.99 or $7.49.
Something like that, yeah. And I mean, it's a cool machine. Don't get me wrong. I'm blown away by the prints. The only thing I haven't researched enough about it yet is how strong is resin versus the traditional materials we use in our models.
Well, there's different types of resin, so you can get stuff with a little higher strength, but resin by nature is brittle. The more that it cures, the more brittle it gets. So if you took your miniature and let's say you dropped it on the floor, chances are it's going to break. If you took a 3D printed FDM style miniature, the same type, and dropped it on the floor after, you know, a little while, it probably wouldn't break because A, it's lighter in FDM, and B, it has a little bit more give than resin does. And resin, like when I did those 3 figures, when I was doing the test on the Anycubic, I dropped one on the carpet and it literally broke into 4 pieces.
Ooh.
Yes, you can add Flexi by Monicure. That's correct.
Yeah, it's just as I said, you know, for me it's all about the fumes. So because I've been very, very tempted by some of the sale prices of that Anycubic photon lately. But yeah, the number one thing you'll find, it's consistent across the board, is they say if you have pets, do not get a resin printer because the fumes, even if they don't affect you, it will make your animals very sick and potentially have it be fatal. So
yeah,
it's not important enough for me, you know.
A couple of last minute questions here before we wrap up at noon.
Hey Ron, how's it going?
First and foremost, we have, what's your go-to print for testing and tuning your printer? Mine is a temperature tower because it gives me everything that I need. It gives me sharp angles. It shows me bridging. It shows me temperature, where I'm getting my best temperature, and it shows me my layer line. So that's what I use personally. What about you, Brian?
For me, since I'm always tweaking my printer, I have to go for the XYZ calibration cube because different materials flow differently through my nozzles. So usually I can tell right away if my temperature's off. I'll just go and hand jog it a little bit, but my flow rates are what usually has to be tweaked. So I go and take a look at my banding, and that one I can spin that print out in a matter of 25-30 minutes just to get a quick glance.
There you go.
Anders, how about you,
what
bud?
Anders is doing there. We're seeing him up in the corner.
Yeah, I'm just trying to upgrade my SED system to a single stepper, and I'm having issues with the couplers now. So they are spinning the motors, but not the rods.
Then you need to tighten the screw on that attaches that coupler to the rod.
Exactly. So I'm trying to find the right tool.
You need one of those?
Exactly. And I have it somewhere. But the question is where?
Have you already covered wheels for the CR10S? Morgan is asking, Morgan Pierce. We haven't really covered them, but I do have some right here. These are the polycarbonate wheels. I have them on one of my CR10s at the moment. On the X-axis only, I will be replacing all of my rubber wheels with these polycarbonate wheels very soon. What's the difference? Well, the rubber wheels, they break down faster because of the nature of the way that they're attached to the frame and the way that they ride in the V-slot. They will break down faster. These, being polycarbonate, don't break down nearly as fast. You'll have these a lot longer than you'll have 2 or 3 sets of rubber wheels. So that pretty much answers that one. And we got Ken Jensen. Hello from Oklahoma. I didn't say hi to Ron. Ron, hello. Why aren't you in the round table with us, Ron? You should be in the round table with us.
Let's
And we
post
got the German
one more
printing
time.
nerd and lots of new people in our chat today. That's great. So where are we? We've got 6 minutes to go here. I'm trying to keep this in a nice, neat package today. It's not always working. Brian, what have you experienced this week? Well, of course, you didn't do much printing this week at all, right?
I experienced the dead, cold, natured people of Northern Ontario. That's what I experienced.
Well, I feel sorry for you.
I did buy a miniature system that I plan on modifying. It's a handheld, portable Sega Genesis.
Oh,
And apparently the whole thing runs Android. I was rather impressed for $80 what you got with it. So I'm going to see what else I can load on that. But right now I'm just getting that Astro Box image going because I'm doing a less than standard configuration, shall we say.
gotcha.
And it's quite interesting, actually, this configuration. So I'm hoping I can just get it working with this knockoff LCD. That'll be my play for the next day. But I'm hoping that I can at least provide an update and see if my printer is nice and happy again versus when I was running AstroPrint.
We're getting a question here. How much are the polycarbonate wheels at Spool? They are $5 a piece.
Have you noticed any kind of wearing or any of that sort of rub off that you noticed
Nope.
with the regular wheels? Really?
Not at all.
Nice. Okay, that's
Now, bear in mind that the extrusion, and I've noticed this, that the extrusion on the CR10 is not traditional V-slot.
of course it isn't. Yeah. Ron's making fun of me because I kept going to Harvey's, which was also a Swiss chalet in Ontario. So I was very happy for several nights.
Okay, I may have to go back to another camera here because the editor is asking me about this because I really didn't talk much about it today. So I'm going to go to my other camera here and we'll see my mess on my table. We'll just move all the mess out of the way. Just move all that up.
Okay.
All right, so let's talk about this really quickly. What is it? Why do I have it? What am I going to do with it? Well, this is the Pets Fang cooling and hot end system that is available for free on Thingiverse. Just look up Pets Fang. You're going to use a 50 millimeter centrifugal fan right here. So it attaches at these 2 points. This unit here is what is going to replace the cover on your CR10. So you're going to take that cover off. You're going to take the fans off. You're going to put the 40/40 fan right over here. You can see that we've got 2 spots right here and right here. Those line up with the CR10.
Richard, you need to flip your camera over to that one. We're just looking inside your head.
Oh, geez. Sorry. Thought I'd done that. All right. There we go. All right. So let's start back here.
Look at this again.
So this is where you're going to add your 50 millimeter centrifugal fan. This is basically the fan housing. That's where the air comes out. So it comes down and around. This is the unit that is going to replace the metal cover over your hot end. You can see it uses the same 2 screws that are already held on or holding that shroud on. Your 40 millimeter fan is going to go here. This is for a stock setup or a MKS setup, or pardon me, not an MKS setup, but a micro Swiss setup because they're almost identical in size. How they fit together is this literally slides over top and you have adjustments on either side. So you can bring it up or down to get it in the right spot for cooling your parts and not interfering with your build and that sort of thing. Now there's 2 other pieces here. This piece is a strain relief that slots into the back, and with a couple of M2 screws down in there, it's going to hold it in place, and that's where you can run all of your wires through. So this is a strain relief for your wires so they don't get caught on anything and you can still stay up and out of the way. And this little guy is the bracket for the BL Touch, which goes right there. So you can change out the screw that goes there to hold this on. and put the BL Touch in, attach your BL Touch here, get it set up correctly for yourself. And that's how this shroud works. I'm going to be experimenting with this over the next week. I'm putting it on one of my CR10s. And once that is up, I'll do a little video and show you guys how it's working. I have the bullseye on the Ender 3 at the shop, which most of you have noticed now if you've watched the latest episodes. And the bullseye is working perfectly. I know I'm one of these guys who keeps saying, don't upgrade, don't upgrade, don't upgrade. But I think this system, based on my experience with the bullseye, I think that this system is one that is well worth making that change for.
From my readings, the Pets Fang is the top recommended cooler by audience on the CR10S Facebook groups and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah, Don, you can join in if you so choose. We are going to just do chat off air here in that same room. So anybody that wants to join us, once again, here is the link to join us. And we are going to wrap it up here because it is noon. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Brian, who came in late. Anders has been in here, and anybody else that joined us today in our live stream. You can still come in. We're just going to go off air, and we'll continue our talk. And what else? Who do I got to thank? I got to thank my staff, Brian, of course, Jess and Frank. Spool 3D, print it right, print it with spool3d.ca. They've got all the parts that I'm using. And the Pets Fang, I printed myself. What else? Who else do I got to thank? My wife, my lovely wife, who joined us for a little while. And you guys. So keep this show going. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share this video or any of the videos in our YouTube page, and we'll see you guys next time. And remember, the first layer is always your foundation to a great print. Till next time, guys.